Thank you, Deputy McLennan. I now call on Deputy Brian Stanley, and the Deputy has 5 minutes.
Thanks, Count Corley. I suppose, as my colleagues in Sinn Féin have already outlined, the universal social charge is totally unjust, unfair and regressive, and it amounts to nothing more than an attack on the working poor. The level of stress and anxiety that people are faced with, living from hand to mouth on a daily basis, due to the penalties they're faced with as a result of the universal social charge, is shameful. We're calling for the abolition of this tax due to the inequitable and regressive nature of it. The inequality is not good for the economy, is wasteful and costly, not to mention that it is plain wrong. The universal social charge is a mechanism to enforce poverty, and it's poverty that drains public resources. We would be far better off if everybody was enabled to make a full contribution using a progressive system of taxation. When people are working and earning a decent income, to spend money to support business and pay their fair share of tax, to ensure that the government can provide all the services and social support and other infrastructure. The universal social charge is not more than a device that makes the position of the working poor worse. Those who are locked into precarious, low-paid employment, at risk of and in poverty, are the ones who need protection. Down in my own constituency of Laois Offaly, which is one of the lowest rates of income per head of population in the state, this will bite very hard. So when the government realise that the working poor, when are they going to realise that they have nothing left to give? Previous governments failed to manage the economy to the benefits of everyone, and the chosen few who benefited during that time are still being looked after by this government, who bent over backwards during the general election to talk of, quote, change. The most vulnerable, those with large families, low-income workers, older people and people with disabilities, were failed by bad policies and choices in the past and wrong priorities. And it's these bad policies and choices and wrong priorities that are now being carried on to ensure that it is still those who have least who are being compelled to bear the burden and bear the heaviest burden of paying the universal social charge. Where is the change that was promised? There is no balance, no fairness and no justice using this system. Both Labour and Fine Gael, and I welcome the fact that there's one Labour deputy back now to hear what I'm saying, both of those parties refused to commit to abolishing the tax despite the protestations about it when it was introduced by the Fianna Fáil party. And I note that the government amendment to our motion restates the programme for government commitment to review the tax, but once again fails to state the time frame in which they will conduct this review. Flawed as the original income and health levies were, and they were flawed, there were at least some small element of progressivity to them. The Fine Gael Labour amendment to the Sinn Féin motion states that the reinstatement of the income and health levies will bring poverty traps back into the system. Well, it may come as a shock to the government and people on the government benches, but poverty traps have not gone anywhere. If anything, they are worsening. The government amendment is meaningless for the 275,000 who are so poor that they lack some of the basic necessities of life, including adequate food, shelter, warmth and clothing. So eliminating poverty traps should be a national goal and a priority for this government, not blindly pursuing and embedding policies that advance it. Everyone is entitled to a decent quality of life, and there is no reason why this government can't scrap the universal social charge and replace it, as Sinn Féin have been calling for, with a higher tax band for people earning in excess of 100,000. From the government's perspective, the only reason to retain the universal social charge is to continue protecting those who aren't vulnerable and at risk. So I would ask those in government, and particularly those in the Labour Party who called for change on the election campaign, to support the Sinn Féin motion accordingly.
Just less than 1 minute.
Count Corley.